Everyone, and welcome again to Hands Across the Water. There's Chris is just a late comer. Good on you, mate. You're very late, per Baz. And here you were ready like a rocket, mate, to join in with us, Chris. So appreciate that. Yeah. So hello, everyone who's watching this. Hope you're having a good day. Anyone from Scotland, especially if you do support Scotland national team, well done on your victory. Fair play to you. Top of the group. Marcus, the Air England team will be coming up pretty soon as well. So good luck as well. Anyone from our England side of things who watches, and hopefully you have a good tournament as well. But so far, the British teams are doing not too bad with the victory. But yeah, so a bit of a breaking news pod, as we said, but it came on. We do our usual Monday anyway, but obviously news is flying out about Danny Röhl. The last time I was talking to Marcus was Thursday. It was rumoured straight after our pod. Typical Marcus. There was not much to talk about when we were on. And as soon as we came off from live, straight away the news came flying out that Danny Röhl and Salzburg, RB Salzburg, were chatting to each other, but it was all rumours at the time. But obviously, that's came to pass that it's not rumours. Danny Röhl is now confirmed about an hour ago, there, an hour or two, that he has left the club and will be signing for Salzburg, which obviously means that leaves the way for Derek McInnes to finally land the job at Rangers. Now, obviously, we'll ask the guys in the panel here with us their thoughts on Derek McInnes, and all you guys in the comments. I'll be watching the comments. I'll put up as many as I can from our members and subscribers. We'll try and keep an eye on that, guys, but obviously it's going to be a busy show, so I'll do my best with that. But yeah, Sky Sports News Baz is reporting that Derek McInnes will be signing a 3-year contract. He's already agreed to this, but obviously with him being in Boston with Kavanagh and a few other Hearts, actually executives and stuff, I think, all watching Scotland. So it might take a wee while for things to be and the pictures to be taken, unless he's brought his Rangers scarf with him. Baz, he might have. We know Derek McInnes owns a Rangers scarf, so maybe he has it with him over in Boston, and they'll do it there. I don't know. But what's your thoughts, Baz? You being a jar about it, and you love Jordan. Obviously, that was a chat. That was a bit of the rumor, and is Jar getting it? And then that sort of fell away. And the rumors are basically, well, I wouldn't say it's rumored. It's heavily sort of being talked about now that Derek McInnes was always the guy that Andrew Kavanagh wanted. So, are you happy with this?
Well, when we go back, I'll go slightly quickly. Everybody on this podcast knows that I like Stevie G. It is what it is with that. I'm not gonna pretend I'm an absolute super McInnes fan right now and go back on what I said previously. But having the time to digest the news from the weekend, because we've had a few days now to get our heads around it, and he hasn't actually been at Ibrox yet to get his scarf and all put on to him. So I've had a wee bit of time to think about things, and I've wrapped my head around the fact, and I've listened to yourself and Chris and Marcus and lots of social media stuff, and probably the time is now right for McInnes to come. And I didn't think I would say that. I have to be honest with you, because I'm not a huge McInnes fan, but at the end of the day, we're going round and roundabouts, aren't we? Every season, it's the same old nonsense of new managers and new this and trying this and trying that, and it hasn't worked. So, by all accounts, Derek has learned his trade in the SPFL with numerous clubs. He done very well last season with Hearts, and I suppose maybe the time is now right. And do you know something? There was a lot of things that was put up about Walter, about Walter saying that he should get a crack at it at some point, and a lot of people saying, if it's good enough for Walter, it's good enough for me. So I'm gonna stay on that ethos, and I will certainly get behind this decision, and hopefully it's the right one.
You're on mute, William. I think you're on mute, mate. Sorry.
Apologies. Rookie mistake, guys. Sorry. Yes, Marcus, yourself then, buddy, on the On the, as I say, we'll go deeper in Danny Röhl and what that means towards the end of the show, and obviously we'll give a nod to Danny Röhl and what he's done since he's been here. But obviously, more people's interest in McInnes and our thoughts on that, Marcus. So we'll start off with that. We'll go in. I've got stats from McInnes and stuff, and good things and bad things, and we will go through all that. But just a quick, Marcus, rough bit like Bazar, thoughts on McInnes now you know that he's the guy coming in.
Yeah, first of all, good evening, everyone, and thanks, Chris, for warning me that you're not going to be wearing the new away red goalkeeping shirt. So I challenge you to wear it, but you haven't. So at least thanks for giving me the heads up. Not dissimilar to Baz, really. We're obviously go through the whole scenario, no doubt, during the show. I think it was always going to be between him and Steven Gerrard, unsurprisingly. So I think it's timing. I think it's come at a right time for him. Like Baz is quite an advocate of Steven Gerrard. I was and still am with Danny Röhl as a manager. But nevertheless, these things do change, and I've got to be grown up on this and think. I was saying to people when Andrew Cavana gave the unequivocal support to Danny Röhl that some people might not agree with it, but we've got to support Danny Röhl in that case, and it's certainly the case with Derek McInnes. So I'm not particularly against it. I think he has improved as a manager. Last time when he turned it down, 9 years ago? It's a long time. Club was in a different place, and he was relatively inexperienced then. So I'm quite optimistic. And the one thing I'm pleased about is it appears to have been sorted out really quickly, because we couldn't afford for any change to go on 2 or 3 weeks, with the importance of the next 2 weeks with regard to pre-season training, transfer window, etc.
What about yourself then, Chris? Good to have you on. Thank you very much for coming on, mate. I appreciate that. As I say, it was last minute there. Baz hit you with the Nazis, and as soon as we seen you comment, Baz was like, get them in. So thanks for coming on, buddy. Appreciate that. What's your thoughts on all this then, mate?
I was just, it's just fortunate I was checking out X when you sent me that, Baz. I'm not on X that much. I've been on it quite a bit today. Thank you for having me, guys. I'm over the moon. I'm absolutely over the moon. I was never convinced about Danny Röhl, and when the news broke that he was potentially moving on, I was delighted. It was just about who was going to be that next guy. And William, we spoke about this the other day. We thought possibly Gerrard. Had my question marks there. No one's going to be. If there's going to be split opinions on this, I think that's a given. But I think when you tick up all the kind of risk factors, I just think Derek McInnes ticks so many of those boxes. He's as, if there is a sure thing, he's as close to it as I could imagine. Given what options might be out there, I mean, who knows what other options were out there? It was the usual suspects that popped up again, wasn't it? But yeah, I'm delighted. I've wanted McInnes for a long time, so yeah, I'm loving it. Can't wait for the announcement.
That's good, man. As I say, and that's it. There's a lot of people do want McInnes. I mean, and there's a lot of people wanted Gerrard as well, and you can understand why, But I'm seeing the argument. Obviously, it's like, oh, McInnes, he hasn't won anything. He hasn't won enough. So I sat back and I was like, right, here we go. I'll take a look wee bit back in history of some of the Rangers managers and stuff on what managers have done in the past. And I'll only pick out a couple of more recent managers in our recent history, Scottish managers. So we've got the likes of Walter Smith. Obviously, he done a bit of work with Jim at Dundee United, done a good job or second in command with him. Then went with Alex Ferguson for a bit. Scotland helped over there as well in the World Cup Mexico. Took on a job with Souness then. Souness brought him on to Ibrox. And listen, a lot of people weren't happy with Walter Smith getting that job. See, after getting the highs of Souness, and Walter probably wasn't the guy that we know Walter now then, to the fans. Ended up being a legend. If you look at Alex McLeish managed from 1994 at Motherwell, had 4 years there. Then didn't win anything, but went to Hibs. Then ended up, they were in the lower division, won the league title with them to get them back up to the Premier League. And again, when Rangers got him, a lot of the fans weren't impressed because they were used to getting the bigger names, And so it's proven before, Baz, if you get guys from the Scottish League that know the league and know what the club's all about, and they get the right funds, of course, and getting a chance to take the bigger job on, that it can come good. And I think McInnes has done not too bad. You know, if you look at Kilmarnock, he got them into Europe after taking them again. He came in when they were relegated, got them up, got them into European football, which doesn't happen much for Kilmarnock. He's taken an Aberdeen side second place 4 times. He's now took a Hearts team second place as well. You know, a couple of those times we were in the division. If you look at what he done with St Johnson as well, he's good run with them, got them also promoted. So the guy knows this league. It's not someone Baz we're going to be getting in and going to have him to cut his teeth and well he doesn't know what it's like to play Motherwell, and does he know what it's like when you're away to Aberdeen, and what does that mean for us and they up their game? You know, he's going to know all these things. So do you think it can? You know, I'd say that's an argument. Probably the ones who think he hasn't won enough. He's, you know, do you not think maybe with him having so much experience now, Baz, especially in the Scottish division and knowing the players, knowing what it's all about, and being an ex-Rangers player and a guy that's won the league, can that help him and help us hopefully be successful? And is it going back to basics maybe the right thing for Rangers and looking at someone that knows the division?
Well, if you look at since the last time we won the title under Gerrard, we haven't done anything of significance since then. So, and we've tried, you know, Gio, we've tried Michael Beale, we've tried Clement, we've tried Danny Röhl, we've tried Russell Martin. Oh, that's actually near came out of my throat there. You know, so that's how poor it's been. You know, with you know, Russell Martin was for me the lowest of the low. That was the worst appointment I've ever seen Rangers actually appoint, apart from Caixinha. But you know what Derek brings is you're right when he brings a wealth of Scottish League experience. I mean, this man has done all the hard yards with Aberdeen, with Kilmarnock, with Hearts, and you know, them clubs are not going into a season to win league titles. We all know that. It's always been the big two. So for a team for Derek to win a title with Aberdeen, it was never going to happen. To win a title at Kilmarnock, it was never going to happen. Hearts last season, very, very unlucky. Very unlucky. And when he actually got a wee bit of money to spend at Hearts, by the way, an owner who backed him financially, and he was able to bring better players in, he actually produced. Hearts were very, very close to lifting that title. I mean, one game away. That's how close Hearts were. So, is it the right time for Derek to come to Rangers? I would say yes, it is. I would say I don't think there's a better time. I think years ago, it was the wrong time. I don't think Derek had that wealth of experience, and the Rangers fans weren't going to buy into Derek McInnes years ago. I think now the Rangers fans are starting to realise that what we've tried to do in the last number of years hasn't worked. It just hasn't worked. And when we're talking a look about Lawrence Shanklin, how many managers missed the opportunity to sign Lawrence Shanklin? You know, too many. Now, granted, Rangers brought him in before Derek was actually going to be announced. But there was a sensibility from Kavanagh to understand that this Rangers team, as much as we love globally superstar players coming to our club, you need to go back to the basics of a Scotchman and get them back into that team and playing regularly. And Rangers have done that with Shanklin. The bonus trick is that you've just got a manager who has managed Shanklin all last season and knows exactly how to play Lawrence Shanklin. And I would suggest a very easy option for him to be is actually to make Lawrence Shanklin captain now. I think that makes perfect sense. So, look, are we is there a point in sitting gurning about Stevie G? Is there a point in gurning about Danny Röhl staying? No, it's a waste of time now. McInnes is going to be the manager, and as the Rangers supporters need to do, is get together, galvanise, get behind the man, and hopefully things work out for the best.
I was saying there, Scotty saying, William, he took Aberdeen to second 4 times. We were not in the league, and that's fair enough. I think we were in the league one of them. I could be wrong. Did he not pip us to the league once on the final day at Parkhead with Aberdeen, and we came third? I think that was the case. Was that not the game Neil Lennon and Hibs, and we drew at Easter Road? Did that not make us? Was that the game? That week, I think it might have been. But Scotty, here's the difference, mate. Now, I know what you're saying. I'm just trying to put an argument across, and my argument is simple. If you're Aberdeen, second place, if Rangers aren't in the league or Celtic's not in the league, is first place, because they're fighting with your Hibs and your Hearts when they're doing well. Do you know what I mean? They don't have the money. It's not. That's what I was trying to say in the last show before. You know, it's not like the it's not the 70s anymore. You know, it's not where you can just, you're lucky enough to recruit the right players and, you know, when you can have a crack at the leagues against the big boys like Alex Ferguson and all done. The reason that Rangers Celtic dominate the leagues is because they've got the most money, you know. So if him coming second place is probably as good as you could expect him to do with Aberdeen, you know. But I understand why some people think he hasn't won enough too. So I get all that, you know. What about yourself then, Marcus, on the fact that he knows the division and what that could maybe mean for us going forward in the transfer market, etc. So a nice wee comment here from Gaz put in. The big question is how much will McInnes coming in have an effect on the summer recruitment plan? So obviously Andrew Kavanagh said the club now do have an SPFL and a Scottish bias inside the club. They've proved that again by obviously the manager they went for. They've went for someone that knows the league as well, inside out. And do you think that's something that you'll see maybe the likes of these Elliot Watts, etc. from Motherwell? You know, is that the sort of player you think you'll see more of, or do you think he'll still go for some players maybe outside the division as well?
I agree with what Blue Star said in one of the comments, that I think we've got to get back to basics and concentrate on the SPL title. And I think that his knowledge of the game, I think that he will follow the route that Mr. Kavanagh wanted to do with a Scottish influence. He knows virtually every player in the league inside out, I'm sure. So I don't think the recruitment will be affected too much, because I think it's along the similar parallels, really. And the other thing I wanted to point out was, it's quite interesting. I would call Derek McInnes more of a traditional manager. I know he's tactically astute. I'm sure he is on the training field, but I think there's a completely different profile, and it's hypothetical, obviously, with Steven Gerrard, but I would call him more of a traditional manager as well. So I think it's interesting, whether it's luck, design, call it what you will, that the club is going for more than a traditional manager. So I can see a big emphasis on the domestic game. And with his extensive knowledge of the Scottish game, I'm sure some of those targets will be followed through. People like Elliot Watt.
I'm just reading the cup. Poor Scotty. Scotty's definitely in the I don't want McInnes camp, but I think it's happening, buddy. No matter what, mate. But everyone's opinion's valid, 100%. You mean? And listen, my own father doesn't want Derek McInnes. I was coming out from the house. He was coming in as I was going out after picking the girls up, and he was like, "Not McInnes, I don't." You know what I mean? So everyone has their opinions, and we're not all. But I'll tell you one thing: if Rangers are gonna do well in this, Chris, we need to get behind the guy. You know what I mean? Eventually, you know what I mean? Just it's like anything. I didn't want Gerard this time going round, but as I said to Baz, no, we're winding each other up in the comments. They're even doing that AI pictures of me hugging Gerard, etc., things like that. But as I said, as soon as anyone's announced, you do the right thing. You know, you just say, right, it is what it is. Let's go. You know what I mean? If that's our guy, and you know what I mean, we haven't won enough in a long time. We just gotta hope it's going to work out for us, Chris. But we'll have to see. Maybe is it the right way to go? We've done a lot of things in the past, haven't we, Chris? We've went all around the place before, and we've got all these foreign guys in or whatever, and then we're like, right, we'll give them time. But the problem is, we'll go out and get another foreign guy or a guy down from England who maybe doesn't know our division, and then see after 6-7 months, everyone's looking, well, he hasn't beat Celtic yet in the game. He hasn't won. He drew there at Aberdeen. He's useless. We don't want him. He's no good. He'll never get, and they don't get the time that they need. And they would do it time and time again. So maybe getting someone that knows the game straight away might help me, might be better for us, Chris. That's all I'm trying to say, because I get why some comments will be, we should be getting him, we should be getting him. I don't care who you get and how great a manager you get them from any part of the world. But are they going to get Scotland? That's the problem that we have. And then people don't give them time to give them the season 2 and season 3 to get it right. They did that with Gerrard. We had patience with Gerrard. We let him build, and it ended up working out in the 3rd season. We've done that for nobody else, and we can't keep doing this. So I think maybe Chris giving Derek a chance could be the right thing, because he comes in straight away, gets buy-in from the fans, and the fans know that he knows what it means to win, to do well in this league, and that might give him more time to build something.
Yeah, to be honest, I think the naysayers absolutely entitled to their opinion. There's question marks over Derek McInnes. Of course there is, like any other manager that we might appoint. It's on Derek McInnes to turn those people around. I think for me, there's a bunch of boxes that he ticks. I mean, I've been against these kind of ideologues that we've tried to bring in the past. McInnes is pragmatic, very adaptable. He always sets his teams up with a kind of a strong defensive structure. He loves using the wide areas. I think he's direct, but he's not a long ball. He's not going to be playing hoofball. He's not a long ball merchant. He's I think you mentioned there, he's quite a traditional coach from what we're probably used to when we were younger. It's just all music to my ears. When I start going through all those kind of characteristics that Derek McInnes has as a coach, and all those concerns that I would have had for any other coach that we brought in, and the same, quite honestly, almost the opposite of what Danny Röhl was doing, playing very narrow. We thought he was pragmatic, but turned out to be a bit of an ideologue towards the end. Shocking defensively. You know, all those things are the complete opposite of what McInnes will bring, in my opinion. Time will tell whether or not that transpires, but I said earlier on, just when you're ticking boxes and these risk factors, it just stands out as the right candidate. But you know, I completely understand why people have their concerns. But I think most polls I've seen were good. We're a good 75-80% of the fan base is happy with this one. So that's it. That's no mean feat as a Rangers support to get that kind of backing straight away. So he's off to a good start.
Yeah, this is it, and as it does settles, you know, and we're saying this with nothing signed, sealed, and delivered. But when the likes of Fabrizio and Sky Sports News and all, you know, obviously, and all anyone short in the know, Rangers is basically saying, look, this is a done deal, and especially with the news breaking the night that Danny Rose confirmed, you know, and Rangers, I don't think we're going to let him go anywhere without knowing who they have coming in charge. But as I say, Baz, it's going to be interesting times going forward. A lot of the supporters have wanted for a long time to go back to basics. They want a Rangers identity. People inside the club that get Rangers, players that care. Like I would say one thing, Baz, if you watched that Rangers team all last season and you watched the Hearts team all last season, you know what I mean? At least you were looking at that Hearts side with a team that really cared and battled. They give everything for their manager at all times. So at least if we can get that as a starting berth for Rangers, I think that'd be a lot better than what it's been in the last wee while, because at some stage it looks like a team sometimes. It's just there's some guys are smiling, etc., when they're coming off the park after losing the league, and you know it looks like at least he'll bring that sort of steel to the squad that we've maybe been missing for a while.
Well, I think there's also a fact of is when some players sign for Rangers, they think that they've made it already and they don't have to put the hard yards in. And I think that's a major problem. I think at Hearts, and no disrespect to Hearts, they're a good club, but I think players generally, when they go to Hearts, are looking to further their career again, even in Scotland. I think when some of these players come up to Glasgow, as I say to you, they just think, oh, I've made it, and that's it. And not every player has done that, but for me, and what I seen last season, especially in the split, some of them players looked like the down tools. I'm not accusing them of down tools. I'm just saying what I observed in some of them games where some of the players really didn't grasp what it meant to do 90 minutes. Because if you look at the Hearts game, the game against the Emmons, the Motherwell game, we were awful, absolutely awful. We played 45 minutes, half decent football. And then for the second 45, the players didn't have the battle to see it through. And for me, I don't know about you guys, but I do not want players at Rangers with that mentality. I think it's a pollution within the squad. And there's still a couple of players at Rangers at this moment that I think that Derek will move on. I think there's a couple of players that Derek will think they could be slightly bad apples in the squad, because we've talked about it before. It's happened with previous managers. It's happened with Danny Röhl. It's happened with Clement, where some players have slightly thinking that they're slightly bigger than what they are at Rangers. And for me, that some of them players need to get given a wide berth. How you get rid of them is another story. But I think Derek, if you look when Derek was actually at Rangers, Derek was at Rangers when the likes of Gaza was there. big names, huge names, and he was in a very, very successful team, a team that was going for 9 in a row, a team that was successful, a player who's been with Walter Smith, who's learned from the very, very best. So all those things can only add to Derek's favour. Now, at the end of the day, it's like everything, it's a result business, and Derek has to get results, just like the previous managers before him. And I'm hoping that Derek I would rather see a Rangers first 11 that maybe didn't have this bigger name from Belgium or this bigger name from somewhere else, and having guys in that pitch, whether it's some of the more younger, talented Scotchmen who are going to wear that jersey and give 100% for 90 minutes. And that's what Derek has a wee bit of work in his hands here, because we spoke about it before. There's a lot of changes. There's a lot of players needs to be moved on, and a lot of players needs to come in. And that's going to be a major upheaval in the squad. But the crucial thing is, guys, this has happened right at when the window's opening. Pre-season hasn't even started yet. And this gives Derek the best chance, because we said about Danny Röhl, he never got a pre-season. We talked about that, Marcus. He never got a pre-season with Rangers. Clement, when he first came in, didn't get a pre-season at the start. Derek McInnes is getting Rangers at the very, very start of the game. I'm sure other players, I don't know who Danny Röhl was looking at with Kavanagh in terms of who they were looking to bring in. Derek might have a completely different ideology on who he wants to bring in, but he's got time to do it. And I think that's instrumental for Derek to actually have a cracking pre-season with Rangers and start the season on a high.
Just say Scotty saying he doesn't want us to become a harsh tribute act, because there is chalk of maybe the likes of Devlin, there's the likes of Braga. I think Braga's a cracker. I think Devlin's a good player too, but it's adding those sort of players, Marcus, if you were to bring them, obviously, and then trying to add in that flavour of the extra. Well, this is where your money comes from, where you can bring on other players to add to that. You know what I mean? But you've got a spine of guys who sort of get it through the midfield, etc. There's a lot of work needs done in the defence and all too. But what about the likes of young Curtis? Is this a big win for the likes of young Curtis, Marcus, having a Scottish manager actually coming into the club? You're on mute now, Marcus. You're doing a me.
Sorry, my dog was barking. That's why I did it. So he stopped now. So right, I'll start again. I think he showed his versatility at Kilmarnock, very much so, and hopefully that can be the case when he comes back. I'm sure he'll be a regular member. I think we might look at a table during the podcast and we can see the type of cross-section of Derek McInnes's sort of tactics and formations, and we've used Lawrence Shanklin as an example, how he has actually worked within that. And as a consequence, I think it has shown Derek McInnes in a different light when we see that table, that there is a degree of versatility. And I'm sure Finlay Curtis will be part of the squad and a valued one. And I can see him playing in a variety of positions as well.
And just say anyone as well, like and subscribe, please, if you can. Anyone that's new and stuff, or if you haven't subscribed yet, because it really does help us out big time. So, what about yourself then on that, Chris? What do you think the likes of Curtis? Should this be good news for him, knowing that someone that's coming in from Scotland, and also would it maybe outside chance give the likes of Lyle Cameron maybe another thought, another good Scottish talent that maybe Derek McInnes, as Marcus says, maybe other managers go, him not for me. The likes of Derek McInnes and go, that's the kind of guy I want in my team playing at such and such against such and such, or whatever, in certain situations in the league.
I think Cameron's about to get a new lease of life under McInnes, to be honest with you. I think he's exactly the kind of player that McInnes likes. Curtis, McInnes has got a decent track record with young players, none other than one that most of our fans are talking about right now. And young Lewis Ferguson flourished under McInnes. So, I've got no doubts. I think our youth is in good hand, and I'm hoping that the club as a whole's got a strategy for dealing with some of those other younger players that are coming through. But I think McInnes is definitely shown in the past that he'll give them their opportunity if they're good enough. And I think he's got a bias as well to players that are, have a bit more heart and determination about them, similar to what you were kind of touching on earlier on there, Baz, about some of these players just not really having that heart, not really getting the club and wanting to run through brick walls. I think there's plenty of players that Derek McInnes has managed throughout the years where it does seem very apparent they're willing to run through brick walls for him, and a lot of players speak very highly of him as a people manager, as a man manager as well. So, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm buzzing. Everything's just positive for me at the moment. All I can think about, the transfer window is the only thing for me that I'm worried about. It's definitely up in the air. You can only assume a lot of those plans will be torn up, and McInnes will want to start again. Maybe we're underestimating how much the club has a philosophy that they want to implement, and McInnes has been told about that, and maybe he's been told there's certain players that they're already bringing in. Who knows? But I can only assume Danny Röhl had some players on a list that he particularly wanted that McInnes probably might disagree with. So that definitely is a question mark. And I think we've mentioned it already. So many players needed in and out. That won't help things, but at least we've got this done as quickly as possible. And like we were talking about the other day there, William, it's not dragged on for weeks. That's definitely a massive positive for me. So.
And I did say the same. When I was on with Frankie, when we were doing the wee pod straight after on Thursday, I was like, if we're going to do it, and let Danny Röhl go and speak to Salzburg, and please don't give us weeks of limbo. And they didn't. You know what I mean? That isn't what's happening. It doesn't seem to be what's happening anyway. It seems to be it's all being done pretty quick. Say, Baz, though, what about this one? Because we're just talking about second chances and stuff for certain players. Maybe there was rumor Leon King was rumored to go into Hearts. Do you think the likes of him will get? I would probably doubt that, but I don't know.
I think the likes of Leon King, regardless of McInnes, I think Leon King needs to move away somewhere else in a new environment. I think it's better for the lad to go and play, first team football for somebody. I'm not saying Leon King can't come back in maybe a season or two when he's maybe got himself settled somewhere, because would Leon King be a starter? I don't think he would. And does Leon King want to be on the bench again or in the wilderness? No, it's not good for the player. Unfortunately for Leon King, he was just another academy product that had huge potential, and Rangers, and let's be honest, Rangers mismanaged them. Like many other young players coming through, they were mismanaged and they never got the opportunity. That includes, there's a whole list of players that we've seen coming through. Or they're the next this, they're the next that. The likes of Bailey Rice. Bailey Rice was mismanaged. Bailey Rice is an interesting one, though. I'm going to keep a close eye on Bailey Rice, because that's the sort of player that McInnes would actually nurture and probably get the best out of. So that could be an interesting one come during the season with Bailey Rice. Again, some of the young academy players that are now getting enriched into the first team. Will Derek, maybe the likes of Glasgow, will Glasgow come into the first team and get opportunities, or will he get a loan move away? So there's a lot of equations to be answered there. Connor Barnes, another one. Connor Barnes will thrive under Derek McInnes. Connor Barnes is one of the few Rangers players last season that actually gets it and gets what it takes to play at Rangers. I'm not saying Connor Barnes the next Lewis Ferguson, but in terms of ethos and his capabilities of wanting to wear the jersey and the shirt, Connor Barnes gives you that in abundance. There's lots of players there, William, we're looking at. Diamandi, is he going to be around next season? Is that a player that McInnes looks at? But the one thing that McInnes does have is he knows these players. He's played against them 4 times a season for the last number of years. He knows these guys, the likes of Diamandis. He sees them up in the flesh, watching them. So it's actually a wee bit of a scouting work for Derek McInnes. He does know some of these players. I think it's interesting times, because when we look at Danny Röhl, I think we're going to go in a certain direction. And now that Donny's away, you've got Derek in, who probably will go in an opposite direction to what Donny Röhl is. They're two very, very different coaches, very, very different in the way they approach things. But I was looking at something earlier. Somebody put a comment on about Donny Röhl, and they were right. It was Donny Röhl never got the adaptability in play games. He could set a team up, but he could never change it when other managers threw the gauntlet to him. And I think that for me was always a red flag. I said this in many, many a podcast, that Donny Röhl's tactical awareness on the pitch against McInnes, against Martin O'Neill, he always came up very, very short. Whereas Derek McInnes last season was coming up with the goods. Granted, the last game of the season didn't work out for him, and we could argue the games before it were unfairly, we can go down that whole referee crap and certain decisions. So yeah, I think the time's right, and I'm getting on that train with Chris. I think this could be a good season.
I were hoping so, because we've had many a poor ones in the recent past. And Marcus, again on the, I know obviously you wanted Donny Röhl, and to be fair, I think me and you were in the same that way. We were like, right, let's give the guy a chance. But there was many who weren't up for giving them a chance. You know what I mean? And the first chance of him going, maybe the club have sort of looked at that as well and thought, look, we don't want another October scenario, which we've had so many times in the past. A few results don't go right, and then the pressure's crazy, and then it's another wasted season, rinse and repeat Rangers nonsense, as we've done so many times before. But do you think that Andrew Cavan has played a bit of a blinder here by not getting rid of Donny Röhl, but waiting maybe to see if someone else was willing to come in? And it means then we get the rumoured in around 2 million. Obviously, compensation. I think it's going to cost in around 500,000. These are only guesstimate numbers from ones in the know that have tried to pinch from. And do you think that's maybe worked out for the best, or do you think Andrew Cavan in his mind always was getting this season thinking Donny Röhl was going to be the main manager, or do you think he's maybe looked at this and went, no one, obviously the Red Bull scenario, he's in relationships with them, through Leeds, etc. Do you think he's maybe known this as might be in the pipeline and it was best to wait?
I don't think it's been any collusion or anything between people. I think it's just like a perfect storm's erupted, really. I think that it was good that he came out unequivocally after the Kilmarnock game, irrespective of whether people agreed with it or not. And I think what's happened is, I think Danny Röhl has universally realised that he's not necessarily got the support of the fan base. And I think that this position, when you've got somebody who's revered in world football like Jurgen Klopp recommending you've got an opportunity to go to a decent team in Austria. I don't think it's nearly as big as Rangers at all, but it's a decent league. Austria's bordered by 8 different countries, and Salzburg's 3 miles from the German border and about 80 odd miles from Munich, a major transport hub. His family is there, and he's probably thought, I've worked with the Red Bull organisation before, it's probably a good opportunity for me. And it doesn't seem that Mr. Cavana or Jim Gillespie have particularly wanted to stand in the way. So I think that can be telling as well. And it's probably just worked out for the best. And as you say, whether it's through luck or design, the club has, well over £1 million or whatever. I was talking to Baz off air, and I wasn't totally surprised at it. The thing that concerned me was, although I thought it was only going to be between Gerrard and McInnes to take over, was the actual timescale. And that worried me if it was going to be another 2 or 3 weeks with so many important transfer window, etc. But the one thing I will say where I think they have played a blinder is negotiating this, very, very quickly. Hopefully we'll hear officially tomorrow or very soon, in which case the disruption is minimal. So I am surprised in a way, but as I say, the way it's panned out, I think can be really positive for Rangers. I think we're going to see a completely different dynamic. I think the players that have come back, we mentioned Diamande, people like that, I think they're going to have to be really on their toes under Derek McInnes at pre-season. I'm pissed off with having the piss taken out of us. Things like Danny Röhl's song at Parkhead, Boyle celebrating the James Tavernier celebration when we play them at Hibs. And I just want us to start getting really nasty now and dishing it out a little bit with players, showing a little bit of Kahanis. And I think that's ultimately what we're going to get.
Hopefully so. But that's always been the Rangers' way. But Chris, I say, when Lexa Shanklin coming in, who was a no-brainer for me for a long time, but listen, he's here now. Eventually, McInnes coming in as well. These are guys that know they know what the crack is at Rangers. I mean, Shanklin, all right, albeit hasn't been here as a player. Yes, at youth, very young. But he's a Rangers supporter, so he's like us, knows what it means. McInnes obviously being successful at the club before, knows what it's all about at Rangers. He knows going away to say to St John's or whatever and getting a draw isn't it good enough. We need to be winning as all these games or as many as possible. And that could help us, hopefully, Chris, as well, having an attitude change. I just can't see people taking, as Marcus says, not only do other clubs take a piss out of, and rightly so, because we give them more than enough ammunition. But I also think, as Baz said earlier in the show, some players take the piss as well. That is actually at the club. Think they've made it. It takes them too long to, to sort of get the. It's not about just wearing that blue shirt. It's about what you do when you're in it. And I think McInnes gives us that straight away, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just don't want to repeat myself, but I think it's a given he's going to have these players fired up to play for this club. He's a Rangers diehard. And he's played for the club. He knows where he's played under some of the greatest managers we've ever had at the club as well. Also played with Marco Negri, might add, so I'm looking forward to asking that question. But yeah, he's played with some great players that know what it's all about to play for this club. So, and I wouldn't be, I've heard a lot of fans kind of turning their nose up that they don't want us to be Hearts 2.0, like stealing all their players. What's wrong with taking Cammy Devlin? He was like double the amount of tackles in midfield than any other midfielder in Scotland last season. And he was out for, 2 months or something? What's wrong with Claudio Braga? I think it was like 17 goals or something like that. A great partner for Shanklin. If he goes and gets these guys, I think Braga sounds like he might be out of our price range, but who knows? It's speculation. But Cammy Devlin, if he goes and gets him, a player that he trusts a lot, it would hit the ground running because he knows what he's getting straight away. So I think there's a lot of options for Derek McInnes to bring into the club because like I said, I'm concerned about transfers, etc. But there is a few options there for him where he could hit the ground running as well, and he knows what he's getting. I'll add as well, Devlin's missus, his in-laws, his family, they're all diehard Blue Noses, so that adds to it for me. He's got that added pressure from his family coming in that he needs to perform. So time will tell what happens, but I think he's the one thing I think we can be certain of is that he's going to have a Rangers team that's fired up to play for this club.
Just quickly, Blue Teddy Bear 55 has become a YouTube member. Thank you very much for doing that, mate. I really appreciate that. Anyone that does that for us, we do appreciate it. And the other members, they're a great bunch of lads. Even as I say, even our Scotty, like I know he's got the teeth out tonight, but he doesn't bite hard. He's a good guy, so he is. Kelly as well. Thank you very much for being a member for 5 months. Really appreciate that. Thank you very much for all your support. Marcus, we have your wee graph that you made up, and it sort of works out perfect. Shanklin and McInnes, obviously, these guys are going to be working with each other. And this is a bit of a graph that you have made up for us, buddy, of the sort of positions that Shanklin could play. Don't know if you want to explain your thoughts on making this up, mate.
Yeah, so the long and the short of it is this is Hearts. So the matches on the left are the 5 split games, and the formations. I haven't done it in chronological order. I've done it in literally home and away. So you can see that the second column there, you can see that there's quite a variant in the different formations. I always had it in my head that he was quite sort of stuck in his ways, really, but you can see that there's quite a lot of different variation. And I took Lawrence Shankland for obvious reasons, having played under him. And bear in mind, this can have a byproduct as well to, we've got 4 strikers at the moment, and there's a discussion of, irrespective of Derek McInnes coming in, do we need the 4 strikers? So it also can have a knock-on effect with that. So we can see, so the top 2 there, 2 completely different positions, 4-4-2, 3-4-1-2. Lawrence played up top with 2 different players, Kaberi and Braga there. Okay, and then in the Hibs away game, and this is where it's interesting, and against us Rangers at home, again 2 conflicting different lineups: 3-4-1-2 with Hibs, 3-4-2-1 against us, and in both instances there he actually played slightly behind 2 and 1 striker. So it'll be interesting to see if he's actually deployed in that kind of position. And we mentioned Findlay Curtis earlier, so maybe the versatility there might come in with these kind of formations. And then finally, Falkirk was more of a traditional 4-4-2, and you can see there that he played up top with Braga. So I actually found that really interesting. So I think that's going to show Shankland's going to be very, very versatile. And then also the other strikers, we might see a little bit of versatility there as well. So one thing I think we mentioned, Baz mentioned as well, that perhaps Danny Röhl wasn't versatile or reactionary, and we can see there as well. I remember watching some of the Hearts games, and although they started there with those formations, there was quite a lot of difference at the end. He wasn't afraid to sort of juggle it around a bit and try and react. So I'll be interested to see what you folks think.
Yeah, well, what comes out for me, Baz, I'll start with you, Baz, then we'll go to Chris. Straight away, that just tells me not only have you got a versatile player, but you have a manager who doesn't always, it's this way or no way. And if it doesn't work, it's, I mean, he's definitely a manager, seems to be, that knows how to switch and change things up for certain teams that he's playing in the division, which is a good thing, because a lot of the managers we've had in the past are, as Marcus said, very rigid. It's happened time and time again. Remember what was it? We're going back to the Warburton days of do plan A, plan B is to play plan A better and all this, etc. However, in football, in my opinion, you need you need to switch and change as and when the teams you're playing against. And it seems to be that Derek McInnes isn't scared to change up when he thinks he needs to.
Well, first of all, Marcus, your A game's on bang the night. Them stats are fantastic. They are, because see, when you were reading them out, I really did absorb what you were saying, and it really gives you an insight into what Derek McInnes is what he has done at Hearts last season. Because what he's done is he's looked at certain teams and how styles of play and what he thinks they're going to bring against his club, and he's adapted his team in different formations to combat that. And for the most part of last season, that was very highly successful for Derek McInnes. It's interesting when he played Rangers, he played the one up top. That's very, very interesting. And that actually shows you that Derek is looking at all the squads. He's looking at how the team's set up. He's looking at how to play. So for me, when Derek's coming into Rangers, that's actually given me a slightly more positive outlook on Derek actually coming into the club, because Danny Röhl, and no disrespect to him, never ever played formations like that against teams. He always tried the same thing pretty much all the time. Whereas when you look at Derek's tactics there, he really is looking at certain clubs. Like a Falkirk. What's Falkirk bringing to the table this week? This is the way I need to set my team up. Rangers are coming to town. What way do they need to set up against Rangers? They play like this, they play like that, Celtic and so on. So for me, that's actually given me a great insight, Marcus. So thank you very much for that, because that really has opened my mind till Derek McInnes' adaptability, and that's what Rangers need, Marcus. They need that going forward next season, not just trying to put the same 11 out primarily and trying to play the same tactics all the time, but looking at other clubs, looking at what their strengths are and their weaknesses, which is the biggest thing, and how you can exploit that. So for me, that's a major positive on Derek McInnes' part coming in, and I'm actually quite looking forward to it, that Derek's putting such hard work and such hard graft into trying to figure out other teams, their weaknesses, and how his team can exploit them. So for me, that's a major plus.
Yeah, and also just I know we did say we're going to keep an interest in the Spain Cape Verde game, but there's obviously not much happening. They're obviously meant to be very well. They're one of the ones that a lot of people's expecting to win, but at the minute they're struggling. A lot of chances, but just can't score. So we'll see how that goes. Last few minutes in that one. I'd probably just scuttled that per Cape Verde team, knowing my luck. But anyway, Chris, yourself then, mate, on the stats, looking at what, as I say, Marcus' stats, we know class as always. And it does give you more of an insight on how Derek McInnes and Shank, and it's just so weird how Shank and McInnes. Imagine someone saying to you 2 months ago, you know, what I mean, both of these guys are going to be, one's going to be at the dugout, one's going to be scoring at Ibrox Park. With a lot, I know a lot of fans will be going, yeah, I'll take that, please. But now it's happening, and we've seen, obviously, we're using Marcus' stats that they're not rigid. It's not as if he has to play here. Or Shankin can play different roles, and that's definitely added to his game. He's not just a goal scorer he was Dundee United. He's got so much more. His game can bring other guys into play, and Derek McInnes as well can actually be a manager that can change and adapt for certain horses for courses kind of thing.
Yeah, Shanklin's come a long way in the last couple of years. He seems to be getting better with age, seems to be looking after himself better physically as well. I think he's been on record talking about he's changed all of his diet and stuff as he's been getting older. That was it 2 seasons ago where he kind of played more in that kind of holding 10 role more than a striker. I think he took a lot from that, and he displayed that he's very adaptable. Did he have the best season 2 seasons ago? Probably not, but still showed that he's very competent in that position. And probably most people thought he didn't have the best season because he didn't score as many goals because he was playing more in the hole as opposed to an out-and-out striker. So, and that was Derek McInnes as well. I'll just go through like some names, like Paul Le Guen, Kenicha, Warburton, PC, Michael Beale, and Danny Röhl, in my opinion, all ideologues. Walter Smith, Dick Advocate, McLeish, all pragmatists. And McInnes and Marcus, I think you've demonstrated it so well there as a pragmatic manager. And I'm of a firm belief that you need to be a pragmatic manager to be successful in Scotland. And I think that demonstrates it perfectly what Marcus has put there, that is what McInnes is all about. He's going to play whatever he needs to win the game. And that's what wins you titles in Scotland, in my opinion.
It's the worst thing I do, I click that mute button off at the bottom and then just forget about it. It does my head in. What's your thoughts on Danny Röhl then, Baz? We'll go through this sort of towards the end. Finish 0-0 for Spain Cape Verde. Unbelievable, by the way. Anyone have money on a draw there for play days? That's well for that wee team. And good to see wee teams doing something different, because they sort of keep saying, they're only here to add the numbers and make the World Cup bigger. But not a bad one. They'll be saying we're here just for a bit more than just making up the numbers after that result. So Danny Röhl, Baz, it's a sort of just, no ill will, really. It's just sort of didn't work out for us. Good luck to you. Going in a place, as Marcus said earlier, for his family. And if we're going to be honest, I don't think there was ever going to be any longevity with Danny Röhl anyway. Because if he had a cracking season next season and all his certain players that he wanted in, there's no doubt he'd have got a great offer in Germany, probably in the Bundesliga, and then would have been searching for someone anyway. So maybe it's at the right time to sort of break bread and wish him all the best.
Absolutely. I mean, Danny Röhl is a nice person. He's a nice guy. The problem with Danny Röhl always has been that Danny Röhl was a project manager, and Rangers didn't need a project manager. That was the biggest downfall. I actually agree with Marcus. I actually think Danny Röhl will go on and have a very successful career. I have no doubt about it. It's just in Scotland and at Rangers, it was the wrong place at the wrong time for Danny Röhl. I just never felt 100% settled with Danny Röhl. I said this the whole way through. I actually said at the very start when we signed him, I wasn't overly convinced. And I said at the end of the season, I wasn't overly convinced with Danny Röhl. And it's still, I mean, put it this way: when the stories came out about Danny Röhl, probably except for Marcus, everybody was happy enough to see him go. Most fans, there was no outcry. There was no outcry of Danny Röhl, we need him to stay. We want him to stay. Pretty much 90+% of the support were happy enough for that story to go the direction it was going. And that really tells you it all, because Danny Röhl, I think he got Rangers. The problem is he didn't have any experience. And I think that was the biggest problem for Danny Röhl. And it's all right being a coach at Bayern Munich and a coach in the Germany squad, but leading from the front line is a completely different thing. You know, a follower and a leader, there's always differences there. Michael Beale was a great follower, but not a great leader. So sometimes certain people have their best attributes or at certain different roles. And at Rangers, Danny Röhl, it just wasn't the right time. There's no ill feeling towards Danny Röhl, and I actually hope he goes on and has a very successful career, because he genuinely is a nice guy. But as I say, tell you, is that what Rangers Football Club need at this moment in time? No, it's not. They probably do need a person like Derek McInnes, who has got major experience and has laid the line for quite a number of years now. And I think the more I get my head around things, I just think it's the right fit at this particular moment in time.
Remy Williamson put in, how can we keep our players or a role taken to Salzburg? And also, let me see just quickly. Also, David Miller, do you think Danny will buy Nadiri? So that's a sort of another question to go to all these. Barry, you're wanting the you're busting to get in first. So we'll let you, and then we'll go to Marcus.
No, just quickly. Do you know the first player came to my mind was Romans? That was the first place. See, when I actually seen that comment, I was thinking Romans. Please the hell do not come and get Romans, because if anything, of all the players that's in that squad, he's the one player I'd keep over the whole lot of them, because Romans for me could end up being a superstar player, and I hope that Kavanagh does everything in his power to make sure Roman stays at our club. That's the one player I'm actually worried about.
I'll just say, if I'm being honest, I don't know. Again, we don't know, but I'm going to say that Romans was probably a club signing, because we have obviously friendships with Westerlo. We're looking again at another player from there. Obviously, our ex-coach is there at the minute, and you know what I mean. So I would say that's a club, but I get what you're saying, Baz. I think we all want Romans to be here next season, no doubt about it, 100%. I would be thinking more Nadiri, only because he seems to be Mark as a player he really, really likes. But I like Nadiri myself, but like anything, certain players are going to have to be sold. Is that at Racing? He's on the bench for Belgium, that I think their team's only been put out there. So if he has a good World Cup, you sell, reinvest. And obviously with Danny Röhl speaks so highly of Nadiri and stuff, a bit of pressure on him. Was it Thomas Muller? He wasn't saying he was the next Thomas Muller. He was just trying to say he has aspects of his game that are very similar. But then once you link a name on that, it does put a bit of pressure, I suppose. Is there anyone you think that he'll maybe come for and go, look, I'm going to bring them on with me? Or do you think we'll keep most of the guys that's maybe come in while he's been here?
I'm pretty confident we'll keep most of them. I guess there's a bit of a synergy with Ryan Nadiri coming from Germany, from the third division there. And I think Danny Röhl did have quite a input into that. But I generally don't think we'll be losing a lot of players to Salzburg, so I'm not particularly concerned about that at all. And as Mr. Kavanagh said, we're not in a position that we have to sell. So the likes of Romans, I think he'll really dig his heels in and make it worthwhile for him to stay, to be honest. Just a couple of quick things. Alison and Daz made some good comments that I think, in fairness to Danny Röhl, it was a poor season, coming third, no wins, and the split was just a disaster. I acknowledge that, but I think the one thing I have noticed on the socials is now that he's left, I think people have taken 2 or 3 steps back and say it's not ideal, not particularly sorry to see him go. But on the other hand, there were some positive things there, because it was an utter shambles when he took over, and the likes of Chimiti and Fernandez, for instance, have really improved under him. Those individuals deserve credit for working hard, but he has actually helped them improve. And my final point before we go to Chris is, I think one of the downfalls in Danny Röhl, I think he's taking 2 of his assistants to Salzburg, is a young manager. somebody like Neil McCann, for instance, I'm just using that as an example. I think he would have been more of a success to have had an older head with him. I really do. Similar to Gary McAllister, what he did with Stephen Gerrard, for instance, using that as an example. Somebody there who's humble enough not to to take a little bit of a step back, but actually give some advice. I think the Rangers coaching staff, including Scott Fry, are all very, very talented people, but they're not greatly experienced, and I think that was his actual downfall, to be honest.
And yourself then, Chris, Danny Röhl leaving, what words would you like sort of for that? Thoughts on his time here, and would you be worried with any players maybe leaving with him? I would say a lot. I think someone's already, one of the comments has already listed out a few there that he can take with him if he wants. There's Asgard being one, Gassam, Antman, the usual. If you want to spend 25 million for Rasm, go ahead. Dio, etc. You know, the usual. But what's your thoughts on that then, Chris, the Danny Röhl effect and his time at the club?
Don't know if we're that fortunate, to be honest with you, but he's more than welcome to most of those players. I think I don't know what the future holds for Danny Röhl. Obviously, he's got a lot of admirers within world football, a lot of managers that have had him as a coach, etc. And for some reason, there's a rhetoric out there that whether he will be as a good coach now or he will be a fantastic coach in the future. I don't know where that rhetoric's coming from, because I did not see that at Rangers. I thought he was tactically inept and very naive. I was willing to give him a chance and next season and give him a fresh start because of the players that he was landed with, and wanted him to have his pre-season and his own players, etc. But I actually think we got worse after he signed his own players in January as well. So that was a bit of a red flag to me. So wish him all the best. Seems like a nice guy. Pissed quite a lot of people off before he left as well. So don't know how nice a guy he actually was. But maybe that was commendable. Maybe that needed to happen. In terms of players going, it's probably worth reminding people that Salzburg were one of 3 clubs that were trying to sign Nadiri when we signed them. So just that could be a concern. But the one thing I would add to that is Salzburg aren't typically big spenders. Their maximum they've ever spent is like £10 million, 12 million euros. I wouldn't be overly concerned about them coming in for any of our bigger players if we just stick the right price tag on them. To Romans, for me, I'd be straight away like, no, hands off, 20 million for him if you want him, and they won't come close to that. So they're more of a buy them cheap, sell them on. They make a lot of their money from player trading, Salzburg. So I wouldn't be overly concerned about that. Certainly, some of the players that I would let go for less money, they're more than welcome to them. But I don't see it. I don't see some of those players, the caliber of them, being good enough for Salzburg either. They're not good enough for us, and I wouldn't see them as good enough for Salzburg either. So.
Yep. Well, my own thoughts is, look, good luck to whatever he gets up to. It's time we will move on quick, because that's what the way it is at Rangers. But we've had far too many managers. I think we've had since Gerrard. I think we've had 8 different managers. 8 different guys in the taking over the team, basically. Barry Ferguson being one. I'm only adding him into that because obviously he was there for quite some time. I'll not add Stevie Smith. If you want to do that, you could add in 9. But we need some stability, Baz, and hopefully this brings it for us. Danny Röhl, I do wish him all the best. I know some of the comments are saying they absolutely do not wish him all the best, but I know he hasn't done enough to really pee me off, I'm being honest. And I hear people don't like it, but so I think certain things needed say. I think there were certain ones in that squad that were too big for their boots at times, and maybe he was the one that stood up and went, you know what, that's not going to happen for me. And listen, we don't know behind us. We know we have an attitude problem. We've been saying that for years. Where's it coming from? I don't know. That's a whole different argument. But listen, maybe at the end, that was his downfall for him. When you stand up to certain people inside the team, maybe players always seem to win over managers at the end of the day. And listen, those last 5 games, we went from doing not too bad to capitulation very quickly. So take into that what you think of that one as well. But Baz, I say, give Baz the last few words. If you want to also mention, Baz, you're talking about a show during the week here as well, if you want to add that in. But just hopefully some stability with Derek McInnes.
Yeah, I actually think you can see it with the majority of the support. There's actually a stability in terms of the Rangers fans have got their heads around who the manager's going to be leading us into the new season. And I think that's stability enough at this moment in time. I think that, Danny Röhl was always going to leave. We always knew that. Danny Röhl could have won the league title there and still went. So, he was never going to be a long stay head coach. So it's best for us that we move away from that particular scenario now. He is gone, so we don't need to look back anymore. It's different today because it's only happened today. But going forward, there is a stability with Derek McInnes. I think even those Rangers is a massive institution, and we're never going to get 100% of people that agree with the same thing all the time. It's very, very rarely that happens, and such a major, big institution. There's, but the stability is there, and like anything, until the season kicks off, none of us know how Derek is going to be able to cope with the expectations of Rangers either. So there's a big gamble for Derek on a personal level. I mean, he's really put himself into the mainstream here and put himself out there. So you've got to commend Derek for making that decision at this time. And I pray to God and hope 110% that Derek is a complete success at Rangers. Just before the other boys jump in there for what they want to say, we have the Founders Trail on Thursday night live. I think it's going to be about 6:30, maybe 6 o'clock. I'm not sure yet, but the Founder Trails, Ian and Gordon's coming on, so that should be an interesting show and a great time for the Founders to come on because the buzz is around Rangers at the minute. The fans are all out and they want to listen to a lot of content. So if you're about on Thursday night, we'll have it out in the socials the exact time. But will be a great show, and Ian and Gordon are very well, highly respected men within Rangers Football Club, and what they do and the work they do preserving the Rangers history is absolutely unmeasured. It's fantastic what they do. So big shout out to them two boys, and I'm really looking forward to it on Thursday night.
No, 100%. No, they're great then, guys, and what to do, restoring headstones and stuff from the Founders and all different headstones they've done in and around the Rangers world. That is, is absolutely fantastic. Yourself then, Mark, and also just quickly, can we put a bit of love and thoughts out there for Leicester City, who have now got Russell Martin as a manager. We wish us all the best with that one, and also you and Cameron. I want to know how Ewan's doing because I haven't heard from him. Hope he's keeping well. This has been a nightmare for this poor guy. Marcus, you say just we'll end it with yours and Chris's thoughts then, mate, and just everything that's went down and hopefully, as we said, we're saying the Baz are a wee bit of stability now with having Derek there at the helm. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Yeah, when Baz and I spoke off air, the main concern was I acknowledged the fact Danny Röhl has left. Quite happy with Derek McInnes. The thing that concerned me was the timing because I thought this might go on for 2 or 3 weeks. So the fact that it's been dealt with really quickly, at least we can crack on now. So I'm optimistic, and hopefully with all the events, the transfer window, pre-season training starting, we got the Europa League draw on the 20th as well, so loads of things happening. So let's hope that we can actually look forward positively. And finally, I'm looking forward to the podcast on Thursday with Baz. Looking forward to that, and also it's great to have Chris back on. So I hope everybody has a really good evening.
For that, and I say, great content coming up and the amount of people watching the show now is crazy. The numbers are flying up, so it proves that likes of Marcus, your stats and all are working for us, buddy. And having the likes of Chris on at times, it helps us out. So everyone that's watching and helps us. Alan's come in as well on board. So anyone who's watching and has stuck with us, thank you, appreciate it. And I say the numbers are really good as well. So we appreciate every one of you for tuning in. Chris, yourself, like big moment for you, buddy. Not only Derek McInnes coming in, but you're going to have Marco Negri on the show. So as I say, we've got a good lad on. So if you want to let people know about Marco Negri when he's coming on, and also just your buzz, your last thoughts on Derek McInnes as well.
Yeah, first and foremost, I think there's loads of lakes down in Leicester. Correct me if I'm wrong. So he'll be sorted. He'll be sorted. Yeah, William, and William, you'll be joining me as well. So for anyone that's not aware already, we're having Marco Negri join us on the Bold and Blue 1872 pod. He'll be joining us on the 26th of June at 6 p.m. and he's joining us live, which takes some nuts from Marco. He wants to have the fan engagement. He wants the fan questions live. So a bit nervous about that. You know what it's like. Some people can jump in and say all sorts of stuff. So we need to be on our toes, William. But yeah, William will be joining me, and I'm really looking forward to it. And I can't thank you guys enough for helping me promote it and collaborating with me on it as well. Bold and Blue 1872. Just I think most of your audience is familiar with us at this point. See so many of your audience coming in over, and I've seen a number of people from our pod coming over to you as well, which is fantastic that we can do that together. It's all great content, and we do our best to help give something palatable for the fans, don't we? So long may it continue, and thank you as always for the support and having me on again.
Very welcome. Yeah, I can't wait for that. It says loads of stuff, good stuff coming up. I'd say Founder Chill with Baz and stuff will be really good. Marcus as well, and then obviously Chris and having Negri on will be some crack. Chris, I tell you, the best thing to do, mate, is just go to the subscriber only on the comments, because that always helps us out when we know it's going to be a busy show. Because at least if someone's going to write something stupid, at least they've the subscribe first before they can do it.
Yeah, they still do it though, don't they? They're obsessed, mate. It's unreal. It's unreal.
100%. Well, and again, thank you to Blue Teddy Bear 55 for becoming a member. Really appreciate that. Thank you very much. I hope everyone's enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed it tonight. As to say that we'll keep you engaged as much as we can, as we know what's going on with Derek McInnes, etc. When the news actually breaks, and any other sort of news, we'll have it on our socials as well. If you want to follow us on the Twitter, we're on the Facebook, TikTok, all the social medias. You just put at HATW 1872, or just search in Hands Across the Water 1872. You'll find us on any of those by both of those words and names. So thank you. I hope you've enjoyed yourself. Have a great night, everyone, whatever you get up to, and we'll speak to you again very soon.